Hey guys, Slynk here with another tutorial, and lately I've been thinking about French house and how do they do that cool filtered bass lines that they always do, you know, like from Daft Punk Voyager. Check this out. Oh man, that bass line is so cool. So I played around with it for a little bit, and this is what I come up with. Pretty cool, right? Very disco, very funky, and I love that sound. So I'm going to show you how to make that sound. Okay, so first thing we want to do is create a new MIDI channel, and we're going to drag in a spectrum analyzer, and we're going to use this to create a sub bass. Really simple. I know I've done a tutorial on sub basses before, but I've kind of rethought that since I got a sub pack. So we're going to drag in an EQ8 and roll off everything above 320 Hertz. And then of course we're going to drag in an operator, and we'll set the first oscillator to a sine wave and the second oscillator to a sine wave. And what we're going to do is go into this tab, set the voices to 1 because we only ever want to play one sub note at a time. And while I'm in here, we're going to set the routing option to this one here. And what that's going to do is send the B oscillator into the A oscillator, affecting it in an FM synthesis sort of way. And it's going to sound really cool. Also, we're going to go to this tab and turn glide on and turn the time down to about 25 milliseconds. And let me get my keyboard out. And it sounds like this. No, it doesn't. It sounds like this. Okay, it's distorting a little bit because I've got a compressor on the master. So we'll just turn that down a bit. Let's just go with negative 7 dB, same as the other one. So you can see it's just one sine wave like that. But if I set the coarse tuning to 3 on oscillator B, and then slowly bring up this level, you can see some harmonics pop up there. And that sounds cool, but there's a problem with that. I don't think there's enough harmonics. So what we're going to do is upgrade our operator and then choose a filter, the morphing option here, and we'll set the shaper to soft. And you can see that added a lot more harmonics. And you can hear that it almost sounds like it's removing that weird overtone sound. With the filter off, it sounds like there's another note in there that's like an overtone or something weird. Like it just, you know what I mean? It sounds weird. So we're going to have it like that. And then oscillator C, we're going to set to coarse tuning 2, which is 1 octave up higher from the original note. And we're going to slowly bring in the level on that. And it's going to phase out one of the harmonics. But if I bring it up louder, it's going to phase it in again. And then it's just a bit of a balancing act where we just want to get roughly a gradient of the signal going down like that, instead of there being just like one random harmonic that's too loud. Kind of like that. And then we'll compress it slightly using a multiband dynamics after the EQ. We'll turn the high frequency split off, and we'll go in here and adjust the ratio on this compressor to about 0.54. That's obviously too loud. Negative 15 on that and negative 15 on this too. We're going to do the same thing with the mid-range like that. And you can see it's just removed a little bit more of those harmonics to curve them down further. And it's also dropped the volume a little bit, so we'll just turn that back up a bit. Just like that. Perfect. Okay, so that's one of the pieces that we need. So we'll group that into a rack. And we can call this, flailing a bit, sub. And we're going to group that into a rack and create a new chain. And what we're going to put in this chain is something that's built into Ableton, which is the guitar and bass pack that you can download. Sounds, bass, electric bass open. And this is going to give us a natural bass sound that we can layer on top of the sub. And that is too low of a note to play, so we'll just drag in a pitch plugin. And we'll also drag in a velocity just so that we're consistent with our velocity here. We're always hitting the highest, loudest velocity. And I just turned the note volume off, the note off volume off, so that we don't get that click afterwards. And then we can just collapse all of this. And this is where the cool part comes in to play. We're going to drag in a auto filter and actually a second auto filter. So the second auto filter, we want to take out some of that deep sub range because we're covering that with our sub. So we'll set this to about 100 and roughly there, and we'll put a bit of resonance on it. Kind of like that. And then this one, we'll just move that down like that. And let's copy paste our MIDI information down to here. And that's already sounding really cool. What we can do to adjust this a little bit more is just put a chorus on the end of that chain, and it'll just be sort of widening that electric bass. Just to give it a slight stereo action. I think about there is pretty good. We can even try the negative polarity as well. I think I like the positive polarity better. And then the last thing to do is, and this is going to sound kind of crazy, but we're going to throw a Multiband Dynamics OTT preset on top of all of this. And it's going to sound pretty messed up to start with, but we'll tweak these settings. Right, we don't want anything happening on the high end like that. Because that's just compressing the noise floor over here. And just something like that. If you really want, you can even add another chain in. And if you have like a bass guitar sample, let's see what I got here. Right, so we're looking for a long note that we can sample, and that one has a nice long note. And it is a D, so we'll just drag that in, and we'll hone in on this section here, because that was the D. Pitchers love the D, as always. And then we'll set the root key on this sampler. By the way, I just flipped that to a sampler instead of a simpler. And we want to choose a D note. I think one octave higher, so let's go down to D1. Okay, that note is actually an A, my bad. There we go. Okay, so now we can zoom in on this, and we're going to set a loop up here. If we click the snap, then it will snap to a 0 position on the waveform here, and then we can choose like a very small section. And to avoid that buzz, we're just going to grab an EQ that out. And then similar thing, we're going to auto filter this sub range out. Something like that, and then we just turn that down. Yeah, and then just fiddle around with the filters and try and find some nice areas that resonate nicely. That sounds pretty cool. There we go, let's throw in the drums. I think the one I made earlier sounds a little bit nicer. It all just depends on which kind of bass sample you have. But yeah, I think that's really like the basics. The basics. The basics of making this kind of French house feel and bass line is you've got to have a nice low sub and then some kind of sampled bass on top that's been filtered with a lot of resonance, and that creates that sound that you're looking for. So cool. Thanks for watching, guys, and catch you later. Catch you in the next one. Peace.